Hey, I'm back here to do another video. Unfortunately, it's not a happy video, not a horrible video either, but just want to put a posting out there, a review about a company that's kind of twisting me up right now. The company is called Holiday Marine in Leesburg, Florida. We're located here dead center between Ocala and Orlando itself. So smaller town, but getting bigger like most. My Carolina Skiff I had posted other videos on, had some pretty big problems with it. A lot of it was stuff from the factory itself. I won't go into too much detail, you can look on there, but I did take it back to Georgia Carolina Skiff manufacturer because the dealers were not really willing to work on something that had so many problems. Overall, they had it for 4 months, got it back, satisfactory. After I took 2 trips up to Georgia to go pick it up, and I'm like, this isn't right still. So overall though, they took care of me. They gave me gas money back, some merchandise, and some other little stuff. So from here, I still needed to take it to a Suzuki authorized dealer to take care of the hydraulic that was leaking. It was leaking heavy enough that if it sat for a few days, it would get quite a bit of liquid around the top seal of it. This is for the trim, and then over weeks, and in case where it was up in Georgia for months, it literally was dripping off the bottom of it just from sitting there. It was all cleaned down when I took it out here to Holiday Marine, of course. So when they first got it, they were real nice, made the plan, set a date, had to wait 2 weeks, brought it in. Once I brought it in, the first initial call was that we don't see anything wrong with the hydraulic. There's just a little bit of seepage around the seal, and that could be considered okay and not possibly warranted. But I was like, any seepage of hydraulic fluid into the lakes and oceans not acceptable to me. I'm pretty sure Suzuki wouldn't be too entertained if the EPA came and said, hey, you're letting hydraulic fluid leak into our rivers and lakes, and saying it's okay. So, and this boat has 20 hours on it now. It literally was leaking when I bought it brand new. Just like I said, now is the time I finally got it in there. So long story short, I told them that wasn't acceptable. They said they needed to dive into it a little deeper. Week and a half goes by. They finally, I reached out to them, they reached out to me. They're fairly decent about that. They finally came up and said that the hydraulic, when I asked about getting my boat back, a time frame, they told me that the hydraulic came in and it was going to be replaced on Wednesday. So in the midst of all this, I put a Bob's jack plate on the thing and some other lights, and that wasn't the only problem with the Suzuki. I also have the trim switch will fluctuate really heavily, so when I'm riding along on a plane, you want to trim up your engine to get the best water process past the prop as well as under the boat. Gives you the best efficiency for fuel. So in this case, I'd trim it up. Typically 30-35 was where I was getting the best, but the trim would literally keep popping up saying you're at 0%, you're at 22%, you're at 35%, you're at 45%, you're at 30%, you're at 20%, you're at 0. And it's really, one, annoying, but secondly, I can't gauge to make sure that every time I take my boat out, I can trim it to the right spot when I'm at cruising speed. And it's a $30,000 motor. You would think that it's designed for the water, it should be fine. Their first initial thing was the LED lights I have underneath. I have a bar that I put across with LED lights for water lights, and they're saying, well, that's causing splash up on the engine, and this is probably causing the problem. But I'm, pretty good with this stuff, going, no, that doesn't make sense. Plus, the bar's up high enough when you're on a plane, the water rushes underneath it. And I said, on top of that, before I even put the bar on, it was causing this problem. It was doing this before I even put any of that stuff on the jack plate or anything. They said, okay. So let's go back to the trim. The trim was being taken care of. I had spoke to the guy, and while I was talking to him, he's like, oh, we're having to pull the engine off to replace the trim. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, can I ask you, I could even pay you a little bit. What would it cost for you to lift the engine up 2 holes higher? Because when I put the jack plate on, it's still a little low. And the guy's like, well, I don't know if we're really taking it off. Let me go find out. No. So call me back 2 hours later and told me, yeah, the engine's off. And he's like, we can do that for you. Do you want it higher or lower? And so I explained to him, it can only go one direction, which was higher and up 2 holes. And stuff. And I was like, how much is that going to cost? And he's like, we got to take care of it, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the conversation. So that all got done apparently, but the switch still wasn't being diagnosed. They said they had to take it for a water test. Today's Friday. They finally said they're taking it for a water test today, but they were still kind of on the thing, well, the switch, could be water splashing on it. Like, these things are supposed to get water splashing on them. I believe it's an outboard motor, but that doesn't make any sense. The switch actually presses against the engine pretty hard, and it wouldn't go to 0. Literally it would have to go down 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch on the switch, like from away from the engine, to do that. Anyways, so they came back after their test, and today, which I'm not even sure if they took it for a test, but came back and said, hey, your boat's ready to come pick up. They said that there's nothing they can do about the switch, that it's just the way it is, and that there's some possible things, like I could put a splash guard up underneath it to help prevent water from getting on the switch. Which is like, okay. And then I could also put some electrical tape, just one wrap around it, so it has better friction on the metal and doesn't cause it to vibrate and stuff like that or something. I don't know. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't my first engine I had, or boat for that matter, but you're telling me basically you're not going to fix it. They're like, correct. And they said for raising the engine, they were going to charge me 1 hour labor, which is $170. What? $170? You told me the engine was already off and you had to put it back on, and yet now you're going to charge me for going and locating it 2 holes different and telling me it was already okay and I wasn't going to charge. But the guy's like, well, yeah, there was it wasn't really all the way off. We had to unbolt the 2 other bolts and tilt it and stuff. I'm like, well, if you were doing that, and you probably scratched up some stuff if you're not pulling the engine off properly and just kind of tilting it to try to get to parts. But anyways, okay, I got off the phone with them, but I did email them back because I was getting pretty upset about this. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I was never told I'm going to get charged anything for any of this. They didn't say there's going to be a diagnostic fee. There's going to be any kind of fee. So I text the guy back and I told him this, basically those words, that there wasn't any fees. I didn't have any invoices or anything like that. So he said, well, I'll knock it down to half an hour. But he said there was diagnostic in the switch. Suzuki doesn't pay us for that. So once again, this is something I'm getting charged for that I wasn't told that I was going to get charged for, or that there would possibly be a fee for. But I'm sure I signed some piece of paper showing that there might be a fee that I would be responsible for. But Holiday Marine did not contact me to say, hey, or even on all the conversations we had, that we still had to do it for a water test. We had to go for a water test. We haven't looked at that. They never came across saying anything about, hey, if we can't find a problem with the switch, there's going to be a charge for the hourly work that we had done that possibly is not going to get paid by Suzuki. I'm trying to make a U-turn here real quick. So what the overall factor is, he told me he's going to charge me half, and then I said, okay, but I still just want to say that I'm not going to pay you, but I'm upset the fact that you did not tell me that there was going to be some kind of charge in the first place. So I got 20-30 minutes later, I got a text back saying the boss said 1 hour fee. So now we went from, I'm going to charge you an hour for something I told you I wasn't going to charge you for first of all. Now I'm going to charge you only half an hour because of your complaint and going through this. But now the boss is telling me I'm charging you the $170 for something that is under warranty by the manufacturer, the engine, the switch, all that stuff. Never disclosed that they were going to charge any type of fee. And here we are. I'm about to pick up my boat now, and they're telling me that they are charging this 1 hour labor. And also note, I did tell them this, that I was told by a different company, because when I first bought the boat, the whole reason I put a jack plate on was because the engine was already setting low, lower than it should. It was spraying. So another boat company, BMC Marine over in Orlando, told me that they would charge me $65-70 to lift the engine. That was actually unbolting the engine, lifting it, putting it back, bolted on, and having it ready to go. But guess what? I didn't get that done because I decided I was going to put on the jack plate. This company's already had the engine off, and they're charging me the full amount of an hour to have possibly lifted it up, and who knows exactly, you know, what they totally did. So getting ready to pick up the boat here. I'll flip around and show you. This is the place. All right, this is Holiday Marine. This is the back area of it. Cut my vehicle off. This is my boat. Interesting, they have that foam still there. To be honest with you, I can't even tell you if they really took it for a water test or not. Well, it's pretty messy, nasty now, so I gotta clean it up. There's where they adjusted it. That's my $170 worth of movement from here to here. And they swapped the bolts around the opposite direction. The switch he's talking about is this switch right here. That switch there apparently is like $250, but they're telling me that because of this way down here, let's go back, because of this part right here, it's splashing water all the way up here and causing this switch to actually rotate itself down and go up and down on the thing. So needless to say, I got some cleanup here. Probably put some caulk in there to keep from corrosion happening. And see what they did with my jack plate. Then they didn't pull the screws loose. They didn't have to in that case. Just very disappointing that Holiday Marine is charging me 1 hour for something they already had to completely remove off the boat to replace the ram, the hydraulic on it, to go from this hole to that hole, since they already had to do it. But then they came back and said, oh well, we don't get paid to do from the company unless we find something wrong, so now we're going to charge you, which was never disclosed. So just beware, companies that you go to, you might have to ask these questions, because in this case, I'm having to eat the fee that should have never been happening from a company that seems like it should be. They have a lot of boats, seem like they should be reputable. They were pretty nice, but it was never disclosed I was going to pay anything at all until they told me, said, okay, your boat's ready to come pick up, and we're going to charge you for a 2022 engine that is 100% under warranty. Well, I'd say 100%, but apparently that's not true either. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and keep us informed of other places that we might need to keep at bay, or make sure all the people here on YouTube that are into boating, or just, you know, consumers, just how, you know, places can treat other people.